Hello and welcome to another Improve Your Chess video. So in this series I've been playing my good friend John and I go over the games and see what can be learned that'll help you play better in your own games. So one thing you want to do is ask, why did you play that move? If your opponent makes a move, always ask yourself why they did that, and that can help you a lot. So in this game, I had the black pieces. John opens with e4, a good opening attacking move, and I decided to play the Caro-Kann, which is c6 here, and he responds with knight to c3. A lot of times, of course, you could play d4 here and control the center with both pawns, but instead John plays well. Another way to go is to develop your knights quickly. So this knight is defending the pawn, so if I capture, he recaptures, but more importantly, he's developed quickly. So I need to start developing pieces. I decide to pin this knight because my plan is to push this pawn to e6 so I can develop my bishop, but I don't want to block in my light squared bishop. So even if I have to get rid of this bishop, trade it off for the knight because it's a bad bishop, or it will be, especially after I play e6. So the knight was pinned to the queen. John is doing good so far, just keep developing pieces. And so I continue here with an attack. So this move is okay, but what is that saying? To take is a mistake. It would have been better if I would have just developed a piece as well by playing knight to f6 and just fortified. But I was thinking, if I played knight to f6, this pawn could push forward, chasing my knight here. So, I kind of wanted to avoid that. So that's why I captured first. And, John recaptures, of course, the best move. And finally, I play this knight to f6 move. So now, there are different possibilities. Apparently, the best move is to immediately attack my bishop. And then I should retreat and attack the knight here. The other option is to immediately capture my knight, and then I would double up pawns here, probably with the e pawn, capturing away from the center, and normally you want to capture towards the center, but by capturing away from the center here, it would keep all my pawns together instead of isolating my h pawn if this g pawn recaptured here. But it just helps keep my king side strong, and then I can move the bishop and castle in behind all these pawns. But in the game, John decided to move a piece twice in the opening, and normally you don't want to do that unless you're capturing something or you're forced to. So he was forced here, but it would have been a little bit better to just either ignore this and counterattack the bishop. And then even if I captured the knight, his bishop could have recaptured and protected his knight if it would have stayed on e4 here. So anyway, here I just go ahead and trade off. So, both of us are moving pieces twice in the opening when it probably wasn't necessary. Especially in the opening, you want to just get all your pieces developed as fast as you can. So here I played queen to c7, or I should have played queen to c7 instead of capturing, but I wanted to get rid of my bad bishop. So after the recapture, I push this pawn and my other bishop is ready to develop. But if we look at this, now I'm behind. White moves. And instead of this move, which is still good, d4 should have been played to get ready to develop the other bishop. And now I develop, and we both have two pieces developed, and it's kind of even here, and we're both ready to castle. John develops the queen, so that's an excellent move. Now I castle, and here the best thing is d4 once again to prepare to develop the other bishop. C3 could be played to give a little escape hatch for the bishop if it has to retreat in the future. Also, C3 would allow D4 to be played to really fortify that D pawn. And castling, of course, is good as well. So here, it says this move is good, but this probably isn't the greatest move because now it blocks the D pawn. You moved a piece again before castling and developing your other pieces. So here, I don't know, I kind of wasted a move here, I guess. I played H6, and that slightly put white ahead. Instead, I should have played knight to D5 and centralized my knight, apparently, maybe getting ready to fork the queen and the bishop here. But anyway, in the game, John plays this as well, I guess, preventing me from jumping my knight forward in the future. Or he's ready to start attacking. So I developed the other knight, and now this is a mistake. G4 is played. So instead, C3 would be better, giving the bishop an escape hatch. And now the recommendation is E5 or bishop to D6, and black would just have a slight edge. But after G4, I missed an opportunity with knight to C5. Black is still ahead here, but knight to D5 is recommended. Let's see what happens after that. Knight to D5, then let's see, C3 is the recommendation. So apparently that's the best move, but we do have the option of forking here if we want to. The queen, getting rid of the bishop pair. But apparently knight to C5 is better here. And then the bishop would retreat. Then knight to F4, attacking the queen. Queen to C4, well, counterattacking. And then that allows knight at F to what? D3, forking here. So, then one of the bishops has to be given up. So after this capture, queen captures, we're just going to have a trade in material. The knight checks. The king would attack our knight. But then we could have this knight on an outpost and back it up with our rooks on the half-open file and start targeting this backwards pawn, perhaps. All right, so the game could have gone that way, but after John presses forward with an attack, I should ask, why did he play that move? Well, he's probably maybe getting ready to push forward here and start attacking my king side. But I decide to counterattack here in the center. After this attack, it gives me time to get rid of his bishop pair, which is best. The queen captures here, but now this allows me to trade the queens and wreck his pawns in the center, and I have time to capture this pawn, which I do. And after the recapture, if we look at the pawn structure, I have 2 pawn islands here, 3 pawns apiece. John has 1, 2, 3, 4 pawn islands with 2 isolated pawns and then isolated doubled pawns here. So, this is not good news in the end game. So here, the best thing to do is start activating the rooks. So after that, the pawn starts pushing forward. Why did he play this? I guess he's continuing to try and attack here. So I just grab up a pawn, but apparently it would have been better to block his forward moving pawn and move my knight to the edge. And then I could play G6 here and protect that knight and kind of stop any counterplay over here. So the game continues with H5, trying to get some kind of counterplay. I counterattack his knight here. So if John asked why I did this, well, it's because I have two pieces attacking his knight. And the best thing here is not this. Apparently, king to e2 attacking the rook immediately would have been better. But now, one thing you want to do after every move, especially if something looks a little fishy, is take a good look at it. Now I have two attackers. He only has one defender. So, of course, I'm going to grab the knight, keep my bishop, because we have pawns on both sides of the board, and bishops are a little bit stronger when there's pawns on both sides of the board because they can get across the board more quickly. So now there's an attack here. I go ahead and block the pawn, protect this G pawn, and now this is played. Why did my opponent do that? Well, he can't bring his bishop out here, so maybe he wants to move it along this diagonal and activate it. Maybe pile up on this right here. So I just double my rooks. John goes ahead and protects because I'm piling up three attackers, and now he has three defenders here. So I start pushing this pawn to add another attacker. Now this is played, and it gives me the opportunity to capture with check. So, always ask, why did your opponent play a move? And then I'll see that he wanted to get some counterattack going. But also ask what changes in the position after they make that move. And so this move by the bishop now allows me to capture here because there's only two defenders. But more importantly, I can capture with a check. So now he doesn't have time to grab this pawn. And the king has to move. So I go ahead and block his bishop here. And now we have a push of the H-pawn, piling up. So why did he play that? Why did he make that move? Well, because now there's a rook and a pawn attacking, and I only have one defender. And I can't capture because the pawn is pinned by the rook. So I go ahead and ignore that and counterattack. Now you have to watch out when you ignore your opponent's attack and counterattack. You have to make sure that your counterattack is more urgent for them to defend than their attack will be. So he's in check, so he has to do something. He cannot capture, he can't block. The only thing available is to run. So he runs, and now I'm able to trade down material here. After the recapture, I grab a bishop. So now I'm just ahead, even more material. And the game just continues with protection of this pawn. So I go ahead and capture. We have a recapture, and now this allows my king to chase his rook away and gives me some time. So he just retreats back. I'm able to check, and once I move my bishop, I'll be able to target this backwards pawn. So the king moves, and the computer says this is best, but now his king is trapped on the back rank. So I just move forward, centralizing my bishop. Gives me maybe an option to check the king in the future, but more importantly, I'm targeting this pawn. So John, maybe he asked what I did here after I moved the bishop, and he would have seen that this pawn's under attack. So he counterattacks, and here that works for the moment because it's more urgent. I have to take care of this check. So I move my king forward, which is best, because in the end, when there are not many pieces on the board, it's important to activate your king and use it in the game. So it's like another attacking or defending piece, and it can be very important to activate the king in the end game. So he moves this pawn. Now his pawns are protected. I just start pressing forward. That way, if he tries to move forward, I can capture and I'll have a pawn majority. And usually you want to press the unopposed pawn forward when you have a pawn majority. So a check here, which is best. I centralize my king even more, getting ready to maybe push this pawn or head over into the action on the other side of the board. So the pawn moves forward. Here I step away from the king a little bit, and I'm threatening to fork the rook and the pawn, and he'll be forced to either give up the pawn or trade rooks, and then I'll just be ahead in the end. So I go ahead and do that, because he didn't ask what I was doing. If he did, was there much he could do about it? Not really, because there's no way for his rook to get in behind and guard this. And my opponent is just running out of options here. So I trade off material, and now we're really winning here. So we just start pressing our pawn advantage, moving these pawns forward. He tries to block them, but now I can just throw this pawn forward, which is threatening to promote. And instead of trying to stop it, it's pretty much over here. He runs, but I get a queen, and so now it's pretty much the end here, and then we just have a mate. So that's how the game ended. Just remember, in your own games, ask why your opponent makes a move. Take a look at what changed in the position after they make that move to see if anything important or vital to the game changed by them making their most recent move. And hopefully that'll help you avoid some blunders and play a little bit better. So feel free to leave any comments as usual. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already to support the channel. Have a super chess day.